I hope I'm audible at the back. Good, thank you. So I think we've been talking, I've been hearing the last few sessions and we've been talking, all of us have been under pressure of adopting machine learning, artificial intelligence on one side, and on the other side, we have a challenge of implementing a very small workflow change, which needs to be done as of yesterday. I think all of us are struggling between these two. The first one is important for our future and the second one is to run our business today. So how do we really kind of do a balance between these two and take care of our future and present as well? So I'm here because we had a small success with Kotak 811. So we implemented Kotak 811 and we are a small organization. And the kind of scale that Kotak 811 became, none of us was really prepared for that. None of us was really thinking that it's going to go to that scale. Unfortunately, it worked out well for us because of certain decisions that we made while we were building it up. So I just want to run you through what kind of challenges we have gone through while we were doing Kotak and other projects like that. So what are the challenges that we saw in Kotak? The first one was legal and compliance. So every day, the compliance, it was the first product of its kind in India. And the legal and the compliance division of the banks or the bank was not ready for it. It took us huge kind of effort to get them ready to adopt this kind of product. Digital maturity of the organization was a huge challenge on both the sides. On the IT, IT was running usual systems. They were not ready for new age digital systems. And again, deployment cycle used to be a big challenge. And the way we were scaling up, when we started, the whole idea was that we'll open a couple of thousand accounts in a month. And it started going to more than 100,000 accounts in a month, and we were not really ready for that. And every day the challenge was how to scale up for the next level of growth. So the deployment cycles were really killing. Every time we made a small change, we went through the deployment cycle, and one day would be gone, and there'll be outage. So that's the kind of thing that we went through. In initial couple of months, the decisions that we made to adopt technology really helped us in months to come. So all these, if you look at all of us, since all these challenges that we have on our workflow side, implementing typical applications, we can't really wish them away. They're there, and the good thing is if we accept them today and be ready for them, then we might be able to focus for the challenges that we see tomorrow, or like the future readiness that we want to be for tomorrow, which is kind of doing AI, actually doing machine learning, actually implementing AI to kind of leverage the data that we have and start making decisions based on that. We need to kind of accept them. So the challenge today is I've not come across any Indian project that we have done in last 10 years where the client says, now you have 6 months, design it very well, implement it in 3-4 months, and then deliver in a year's time. I've not come across any project. Every project we go to, the first thing is that can we have it next week, or can we have it ready? Can we have go live next month? So how do you manage that? We Indians are really not really good at spending a lot of time on design planning. We don't really do that. And how do we really now manage the kind of changes which are happening from the external entities and from the internal ones? External ones being, every day competition is launching new products. Every day your product manager wants to launch something new in the market because he's experimenting with something. Every other day there's some regulatory change. So how do we really cope up with that and still launch a product which is more reliable and more scalable? So what we did was we kind of, few of the things we adopted. So my slides may not be kind of aligned with what I say, so pardon me for that. So we picked up a no-code platform which was kind of to implement anything which is regular workflow-based application. We said we'll go for a no-code platform. But the moment you talk of no-code platform, we talk of very generic platforms from any of the big players. The challenge with those generic platforms is those platforms are complex enough for your teams to adopt. The kind of effort which goes into adoption of those platforms is pretty much similar to doing a bespoke application. So the answer lies in, can we have a no-code platform which is very much oriented for your domain, very much oriented for your own industry, because it's very difficult to find something which, one product which fits all. It doesn't really work, and we've been talking in previous sessions also. Every organization also wants to extend its personality in the digital assets that it launches in the market. So no-code platform, which is very well oriented for your domain, is something which seems to be the answer, at least for the regular applications which are more like workflow applications, or applications which are more like B2E. So we picked up a no-code platform. The things that were non-standard, they would not go on a no-code platform. But the things that are pretty standard, they go on a no-code platform. So that was the first thing, and that really helped us in a big way. Today, let's say, Supreme Court passed an order on 26th of September that you can't use Aadhaar. And now we have a bill which has come up in just a matter of 6 months' time. We have another bill which has come up which now Aadhaar is allowed to be used. So within 6 months, we have gone through at least 3 cycles of these changes. Sometimes Aadhaar was not allowed. Aadhaar was allowed only for a specific kind of account opening. And then now Aadhaar is allowed for everything. But once the customer's consent is there, it's kind of the customer is willing to do that. So now possibility of launching all these 3 versions in like 6 months, going through SDLC, happened just because we had the platform which allowed us to make these changes in matter of couple of days. I think Kotak again and a couple of other clients that we work with, they were the first ones to launch the applications after this Aadhaar's impact. So no-code platform was one. Another thing that we kind of relied upon was partner ecosystem. We didn't really think of doing all APIs ourselves, all data source integrations ourselves. The idea was, can we pick up a few partners in the market who specialize in that? And can we actually start leveraging what others have built rather than going and creating? Now, if you look at 5 years back, the answer to this agility, or like a couple of years back, the answer to this agility was pick up an off-the-shelf product. I think that doesn't work today. Because any product that you pick up, I'm talking of business application product. Now, the challenge there is those products give you a boundary which you can't really pass through, which you can't really go away from. You pretty much start feeling confined, you start feeling bounded within that product boundary. So now, for that, the answer is something between bespoke, because bespoke is slow. Bespoke has got scalability challenges. On the other side, product gives you a lot of, there are a lot of boundaries which you want to pass or break those boundaries. So the answer lies somewhere in between bespoke and product. And there what we did was, the idea was to pick up a no-code platform. So no-code platform oriented for the bank's domain allowed us to do something which was very custom to the bank's personality, which was very well oriented and aligned with bank's personality and the product that they wanted to launch. On the other side, all the things which were very standard, they got implemented through configuration. And partner ecosystem gave us agility and ability to use whatever is existing in the market to quickly integrate that data in the workflows that we were using. So that was another thing that we used. To come up the challenge of SDLC and deployments, we started using DevOps from very beginning. And DevOps, something which I think was one of the best decisions that we did. Today we are able to pretty much launch or deploy one-click deployment, managing all our load balancing through Kubernetes and Dockers. It really worked very well for us. So it's really taken away whole amount of pain which was there in the initial months because of deployment. So that's another thing that we did. And one very important thing that we've been talking about in our previous sessions was using data for AI, ML. Now, if you look at the typical databases that we use, it's either Oracle, MS SQL. Now, those databases, any application which is using any of these databases, the life cycle of a change is longer for a very simple reason that any change done in any part of the application, whether it's on the screen or it's on API, needs a change in all parts of the application. So imagine you want to make a change in one of the screens because you can't use Aadhaar right now and you want to use some other OVD document, let's say. You need to change API because the parameters of API have changed. On the database side, since now new fields have been added, you need to add those fields in data store. You need to change your databases and your stored procedure or your queries to make sure that you're able to store those those fields. So I think we did a very smart thing there. We used a mix of NoSQL and RDBMS. So we still store data in Oracle, but the data is not stored as typical column structure. That data is stored as JSON objects. So the organization, the clients have this comfort of working with Oracle for a long time or MS SQL for a long time. They don't want to go away from that comfort because they don't have in-house teams to manage maybe Mongo and HANA and all. So the infrastructure that was used was which gave comfort to the client. But the data that was being stored was JSON objects. Now the moment you do that, the first thing that happens is you make a change on the screen. You don't change the API because API, the JSON object is kind of flowing, which is totally expandable. Now the same object, which was containing, let's say, 20 fields earlier, now can store 15 or 25 fields without making any change in that. Now this really worked wonders for us. Any change that we do, rather than changing 5 components of the entire system, we just change one component. All other 4 components pretty much remain exactly the same. We can launch the application, and by the time you actually start using that 5 new fields that you have some time now. You have some time to start using that. Another smart thing that was done was, how do you really kind of go between this NoSQL and typical RDBMS? So using a very standard ETL, we kind of converted this JSON objects into RDBMS pretty much at in real time. So RDBMS is used for all your MIS and for lifecycle management of any of the entity, which could be a loan application file, could be account opening form or a lead, gets done in the JSON objects. So that really kind of that I think I really thank that decision. That decision really took away a lot of pain of bringing about these changes that we do today. So that was another thing that we did. Another thing which was very, very important for us was using open standards, whether it comes to OAuth for authentication or it's kind of open API standards. So since we were using open standards, our ability to integrate with any of the third-party systems was much, much higher, and it took much lesser time to do that. So I think these were certain things that we went through while we were doing this entire implementation of large scale with some of our clients. And these things have been helping us in a big way. Today we are able to make any change and we can launch any change in the front end of the application in less than 48 hours. And it goes through complete life cycle of deployment and everything. In 48 hours it can be in the hands of the users without really deploying a battery of people to do it. So it's kind of another thing that was done was a lot of work today gets done by the BSG team of these clients, which means the client, the people, those who are conceptualizing the change, those who are actually going through how the change and what change needs to be done, they're pretty much able to do configuration without even going to the IT team. So without going to the IT team to introduce a field on a screen, if your BSG team is able to do it, you are cutting down significant efforts that go in that. So that's the way it's being done today. So I think now this entire thing is taking away a lot of pains from what a typical workflow application or run your today's business problems that you have is kind of, it solves a lot of those problems. And with that, we've been able to kind of pick up, we've been able to focus on now how do we leverage this data that we have, which is kind of coming from hundreds of thousands of customers, those who are using this application. How can we leverage this data, which is, by the way, every few months, the structure of the data changes. Now still we want to leverage that data for making decisions, for our analytics, for like making decisions on what kind of changes we do in the application front end. So all that has become a lot easy. We are able to kind of focus senior bandwidth on that, and that's really helping us in a big way. So I think in a nutshell, what we have been able to do is, we've been able to do something between bespoke and a product. Not really going by the limitations of databases in terms of how we store in columns and all. And this entire typical deployment cycle, if you look at every organization today is talking of DevOps. Every organization, I don't know how much of actual DevOps is being done in each of the projects that we do. But once that goes live, we've realized it's such a boon for us that it really takes away a lot of pains. So these were some of the experiences that we went through. I'll just quickly run you through, what we have done in these kind of things. So create while you ideate, I've talked about it, it's kind of no redeployment. So this was another very important thing. So your front-end application, whether it's Android, iOS, there is no redeployment and there is no reinstallation of the application. So if you typically look at this entire no-code platforms have two thought process, two paradigms. One is a typical hybrid paradigm where you have, a code once and then you use it in all devices. And second is you have native shells, and those native shells allow you to configure the flow of the application and the UI the way you want it. So we use the second one. So there is no deployment or installation of the application also, which means your users don't have to go through this pain of update of the application every time. And in a typical enterprise environment, you have this MDMs, around these applications. So you have to go through that cycle of application installation through MDMs. So all that is not really kind of, not really seen in this kind of environment. So it's no redeployment. And of course, the entire ownership cost is much lower. The A/B testing, A/B use case testing is much easier now. You can make changes in configuration, make those configuration flows only to happen to a couple of users, see how it works, and then roll it out to a larger audience. So that's typical, very dynamic environment in which we work today. And that's kind of, because of this platform that we have, which is called Vana, it has become a lot easier. And since you're not coding, you're not making any code changes, there is no chance of introducing vulnerabilities from security standpoint. So you don't really have to do that security testing with every deployment or every release that you do. So it's kind of, it's unless you are itself, your application changes don't really are prone to any vulnerabilities that may be introduced. So every time the code doesn't change, no redeployment, so no security vulnerabilities that can occur. So these are some of the components that we use of our platform, which is vDesigner, which allows you to design your applications from a front end, which is pretty much like a drag and drop kind of a thing. You can design your applications. So vConnect is this connecting with your partner ecosystem. So you can connect with your partner ecosystem, with your core systems through a no-code kind of platform where all API, your ESB pretty much gets done through vConnect. So VOps is something, that in a previous presentation, we saw that, how your operations from device management standpoint works. This is very similar stuff, but from more like your server applications, enterprise applications. You have VOps, which is like, operations, which give you a dashboard, which gives you which API is taking how much time, which API is actually making the entire experience really bad, which API is not really responding for last some time. So that's VOps. And we enable this, we created some of the accelerator libraries. I'll give you an example, a lot of code that goes into is for enriching data. So whatever data we capture from the front-end applications, a lot of coding is done to do computation, and the computations could be mathematical, could be string operations or data operations. So a lot of coding goes into that. So we created something which is like, we call it data enrichment tool, which is pretty much like you're writing Excel formulas. Without going into the code to do that data enrichment, you can pretty much configure the enrichment that you want to do in your data in an Excel-like formula, and just deploy that as a configuration, and that change. Imagine only, let's say EMI calculation, or computation of what is the next due date. All of that we write logic in our code generally. The whole idea was to go away from the code and do it on a no-code platform. So vEnable provides those kind of accelerators which allow you to do these things through configurations, and redeployment is not needed. So these are some of the things that we've been using with our clients and which have been helping us. So that's kind of, these are dynamic forms, drag and drop. You can apply validations. So this is Designer. Similarly, on the vConnect side, you have it's a microservice architecture where you can pretty much control if there is one of the APIs which is being used maximum is consuming, that has got chances of maximum failure. How do you host that as a separate microservice? So these microservices, which are business-oriented microservices, and not really microservices which are purely tech in nature. So those kind of microservices really help us in controlling or minimizing the failures in APIs. So that's vConnect. And all of this is designed, it's kind of more the entire focus has been to design it for a specific domain rather than making it too generic and then making it available for everybody. Then the moment you start doing that, it becomes too complex. It becomes too complex, and it pretty much it ends up like 80% of the coding work. So the whole idea was to make it very focused for a specific domain, and then use that, and no code but for a specific domain. So this is like IT operations, real-time monitoring, and using time series database and graph. And similarly, your entire logs management on a ELK kind of a platform. So we have used a lot of open technologies to kind of give you best of the experience, or kind of help IT divisions or CTOs to manage a lot of their stuff which is regular pain, or which is regular business to be managed today, so that they have some time to kind of focus on new age stuff like AI and ML. We enable is like business rule engine, data enrichment that I talked about, scorecard engine, because since we were focusing on finance as a domain, so scorecards and all that was very important for us. So that was built as part of we-enable. So right technology advantages that we have seen is faster time to market, minimal chances of issue going into production, because since you're not doing any coding, all the issues that could have happened because of coding are now gone. And you're able to see the behavior of the application even before it goes on the device. So it's kind of, you create while you ideate. That's the kind of concept that we've used here. A scalable database that I talked about. No more data sync issues. So in India, although we are moving to 4G and 5G tomorrow, but still we know reality is that in at least 30% times our calls don't go through. And we know that when you need data connectivity, it's not going to be there. So how do you manage that entire data sync in an offline manner? How do you really make your users have the full performance, the full ability of the application in largely offline mode? So we have created more like a sync engine, which allows us to synchronize data between devices, which could be Android or could be iOS or any of those devices. So that's something that we've done. So it's kind of reduce infra requirements was another very important thing. In the first couple of months when we went live, the challenge was every day we were doing horizontal scaling. And at one point of time, we had battery of application servers, which was like run into numbers of 12 or 14 application servers. So the entire infra management itself became a headache. So then moving to this microservice architecture and really giving resources to the microservices, those needed, and not really running all the microservices all the time. So it's pretty much like a zero infra kind of infra as a service kind of a concept that we used. So it's kind of reduced a whole lot of infra requirements for us. So faster go-to-market, faster troubleshooting, and now I think we are much more confident in handling that scale. Today, if let's say any of our clients talks of doing 10x kind of a growth in a couple of months, we are very confident with these kind of technology choices that we've done. So these are some of the use cases that we have built on these platforms. So it's CASA onboarding, it's your current account and savings account onboarding. So today we have close to about 6-7 banks who use this platform for this CASA onboarding. Collections management. I'm running out of time, so I'll quickly run you through this. So it's lead management. Now digital lending, I'll just talk of this for like a minute. We recently launched an application with one of the NBFCs where the entire decisioning of a loan happens in less than 5 minutes. So a 5 crore rupee loan principally gets approved or rejected. The decision is made in less than 5 minutes. So if you look at the entire no-code platform, and we have gone through multiple iterations because for approving a loan in 5 minutes, the bank wants to, the NBFC wants to be really sure about the policies, really sure about what kind of assessment, financial assessment and risk assessment they're doing. Every day, the ways in which they were doing risk assessment and financial assessment, that was changing. So it has been changing pretty much, every other day they would say, we want to apply these 5 policies, take away these 3 policies. We want to kind of add this one more source of information. Till yesterday we were doing one bureau, now we want to do multi-bureau. So all of that is so dynamic. And touchwood, we have been able to deliver those changes in a matter of a couple of days. Like, every change, that policy change gets delivered in less than 48 hours. So, that's this entire lending platform has really kind of proven on the lending side. That same platform is being used very efficiently on the lending side as well. So incentives management, this is one of the complex use cases that we picked up. In any organization, computing incentives and payouts All of us in the business are making it more and more complex as our products are becoming complex. So computing incentives for a bank is I'm sure like any of the bankers who's here knows that it's not easy. And sometimes we don't change our incentive plans because we know by the time you roll out that incentive plan, you'll not be ready with the computation and with the IT changing the system to make it available. So today we do, for a bank, entire incentive computation, which is again done through a configurable platform using scoring and data enrichment, where you pretty much do all your incentive calculation through configurations. So multiple channels, multiple products you have, so however complex it is, you're able to do it without coding. So I think that's it from my side. So thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, I'll be around. I'll be happy to answer those questions. Thank you.